Okay, so you guys are not going to believe this one.
Yeah.
Just weeks before the NFL draft, 20-year-old Isaiah Bond,
Yeah.
a name that's been buzzing in draft circles,
Oh, yeah.
gets arrested.
Crazy, you're right.
Sexual assault.
Yeah.
I mean, this news, it hit like a shockwave, man.
Absolutely.
So you're all probably out there trying to piece it all together,
Oh,
right?
of course.
What happened? Who is this guy? What does it all mean? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
That's right.
We're calling this one
Yeah, Isaiah Bond situation.
the Isaiah Bond situation.
Yeah.
And we've got our expert here who's been
Yeah.
poring over all the initial reports,
That's right.
looking at Bond's statements, trying to, just
Try and put it all together.
make sense of this whole developing situation.
Right.
So our goal today is to give you guys the crucial information. The arrest itself, Bond's background,
Of course.
his rise in the football world, his immediate response to these allegations, and what the potential fallout could be for his NFL career.
It's a wild situation.
It's absolutely wild.
Yeah.
This young man on the very cusp of achieving something
I know.
he's worked his entire life for, and then this.
It's tough.
Yeah. So let's just start with the bare facts of the arrest.
Okay.
What do we know?
All right. So Thursday morning, April 10th, 2025, in Frisco, Texas.
Yeah, okay.
That's where Isaiah Bond turned himself in.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a chase or anything dramatic.
Right.
There was an outstanding warrant related to a sexual assault allegation.
Okay.
And he voluntarily went to the Frisco Police Department.
Right.
By noon, he was out on $25,000 bail.
$25,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an insignificant amount of money.
It's not nothing.
But what's really striking here is the silence from the Frisco PD.
Right.
It's like they've clammed up.
Totally. They've released zero details about the specifics of the allegations. We don't know who the accuser is,
Right.
when or where this allegedly happened, or even the nature of the assault being claimed.
So
Yeah.
this lack of information.
It's crazy.
That's-
It creates a vacuum.
Right.
And you can imagine speculation has been
I'll bet.
rampant.
So you've got this cloud, hanging over him.
Right.
But before this news broke, who was Isaiah Bond? What kind of player and prospect are we talking about here?
We're talking about an explosive athlete,
Okay.
20-year-old wide receiver, known for his blistering speed.
Yeah.
He's been clocked at an incredible 22 miles per hour on the field.
Wow.
22 miles per hour.
That's unbelievable.
Right.
Okay.
And then you look at his 40-yard dash times.
Yeah.
4.39 seconds at the NFL Combine.
Okay.
And then he shaved that down even more to 4.34 seconds at Texas's Pro Day.
Wow.
I mean, that is blazing speed.
Okay.
Put that in perspective.
Yeah.
That's the kind of speed that forces defenses to constantly account for him, which opens up opportunities for his teammates.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So we're
talking elite traits.
elite traits.
Those are game-changing numbers.
For sure.
Where did he develop that kind of talent?
All right, so he spent his first 2 college seasons at the University of Alabama,
Oh, wow.
playing under Nick Saban.
Wow.
And that in itself tells you a lot about his potential,
Sure.
given the high standards of that program.
Of course.
He then transferred to the University of Texas for the 2024 season,
Okay.
and his performance there was eye-catching.
Okay.
34 catches, 540 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns.
Right.
A key reason why Texas made it to the college football playoff semifinals.
Huge. Huge.
So leading up to this arrest,
Right.
where was he expected to land in the NFL draft?
So the general consensus was that Bond would likely be a second or third round pick
Okay.
in the NFL draft, which is happening at the end of April in Green Bay.
Right.
He had generated significant interest from several teams.
Okay.
The Cleveland Browns, Green Bay Packers, and Kansas City Chiefs
Okay.
were all reportedly among the teams that had scheduled or conducted top 30 visits with him. So top 30 visits, those are the real deal.
Oh, yeah.
That means a team is seriously considering a player.
Absolutely. These are highly sought-after invitations, almost like a final interview stage.
Okay.
Where teams bring in a limited number of prospects.
Yeah.
They are seriously considering for a closer look
Right.
at their personality, medical history, and football IQ.
Yeah.
The fact that Bond had these lined up
Right.
speaks volumes about his standing in the eyes of NFL teams.
I remember reading about other meetings and workouts he had planned as well.
Oh, yeah. His pre-draft schedule was packed.
Wow.
He reportedly had a workout and dinner with the Buffalo Bills just before he turned himself in.
Wow.
And a formal visit to Buffalo was scheduled for April 14th.
Okay.
There was also reported interest from the Tennessee Titans,
Okay.
and he participated in a local prospect day with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
This flurry of activity underscores just how highly he was regarded as a draft prospect.
So his career was clearly on a steep incline. What was his immediate reaction to these very serious allegations?
So almost as soon as he was released on bail,
Yeah.
Bond issued a public statement.
Okay.
In it, he stated very clearly that the accusation against him was patently false.
Right.
He also said he is fully cooperating with the Frisco Police Department's investigation.
Okay.
Importantly, he asked that everyone reserve judgment
Right.
until all the facts are released by the authorities.
That's a pretty strong denial,
It is.
especially given the timing.
Right.
And he also acknowledged the seriousness of such accusations, didn't he?
He did.
Okay.
He recognized that claims of this nature are incredibly harmful to everyone involved.
Right.
It's a mature acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And perhaps hints at the approach his legal team will take: a firm denial coupled with a call for due process.
Yeah, let's dig a little deeper into where Bond comes from.
Okay.
You mentioned Beaufort, Georgia.
Yeah.
Is that a place known for producing top athletes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beaufort, Georgia has a well-earned reputation as a powerhouse in high school sports, particularly football.
Okay.
Their program has a history of consistent success,
All right.
and producing players who go on to play at the college and even professional levels is quite common there.
Okay, so he was a standout in a place known for standouts.
Yeah.
That led him to Alabama.
Right?
Playing under Nick Saban for 2 years. That must have been a significant experience.
It's huge. It was.
Yeah.
Choosing Alabama in 2022 speaks volumes about his talent and potential.
Okay.
Considering the intense competition and high expectations within that program,
Yeah.
his freshman year is generally described as solid,
Okay.
meaning he was contributing and learning in a very demanding environment.
So it was his sophomore year at Alabama that really made people take notice.
Exactly.
Okay.
In the 2023 season, he had a breakout year,
Right.
catching 48 passes for 668 yards and 4 touchdowns.
That's huge.
Huge. And let's not forget that crucial game-winning touchdown against Auburn in the final seconds, a play that had major implications for Alabama's playoff hopes.
Right.
That kind of performance in a high-stakes rivalry game shows you what he's capable of under pressure.
Yeah. Then came the unexpected retirement of Nick Saban.
Right.
And Bond ended up transferring to Texas.
Yeah.
Why the move?
Well, Nick Saban's retirement in early 2024 sent ripples throughout college football.
Yeah.
For a player like Bond, a coaching change of that magnitude often leads to a reassessment of their fit
Of course.
within the program and its new direction.
Right.
His transfer to Texas allowed him to play in a different offensive system under Coach Steve Sarkisian,
Okay.
which really showcased his speed and big play ability.
And his performance at Texas in 2024 really cemented his status as an NFL caliber talent.
Oh, he did.
Okay.
As we discussed, he was a vital part of the Texas team that reached the college football playoff semifinals.
Right.
His speed was a constant threat. Remember that 22-mile-per-hour clocked against UTSA?
Oh, yeah.
And he showed his versatility with 98 rushing yards on just 4 carries.
Wow.
You know?
He proved he could impact the game in multiple ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That dominant performance clearly translated into significant NFL attention,
Yeah,
culminating in those top 30 visit invites.
for sure.
So after that successful season, he declared for the NFL draft,
Right.
foregoing his senior year.
Yeah.
Huge decision, signaling his confidence in turning pro.
Right. Big decision.
Yeah, it was a decision that reflected this strong belief in his readiness for the NFL,
Yeah.
fueled by his on-field success and presumably positive feedback from NFL scouts.
Right.
Leading up to the arrest, the draft buzz around him was considerable.
It was.
ESPN's Mel Kiper, a respected voice in draft analysis,
Oh, yeah.
had him ranked as the #6 wide receiver in the entire draft class,
Wow.
and even projected him to be picked by the Carolina Panthers.
That's high praise.
That's high praise.
Yeah.
And then he went to the NFL Combine and Texas Pro Day
Right.
and further highlighted his incredible athleticism.
Yeah.
His 40-yard dash times at both events only solidified the perception of his elite speed,
Absolutely.
a trait highly coveted by NFL teams.
Of course.
The reported interest in visits with teams like Buffalo, Tennessee, and Atlanta
Yeah.
further confirmed his status as a sought-after prospect.
Right.
It paints a picture of a young man with the world at his fingertips,
You know.
which makes these allegations all the more shocking.
I know.
What are the big unanswered questions surrounding this accusation right now.
Okay.
What don't we know?
So the biggest unknown is the complete lack of specific details from the Frisco Police Department.
Right.
As we've said, we don't know the date, the location, the identity of the accuser, or the exact nature of the alleged sexual assault.
Yeah.
This void of information makes it incredibly difficult to understand the context of these serious allegations.
And the timing of the alleged incident itself is also a major question mark.
Absolutely.
We have no information on whether this allegedly happened recently, perhaps during his time at the University of Texas, or if it dates back to his time at Alabama or even before that.
Yeah.
The timeline is a crucial piece of the puzzle that remains missing.
It is.
Based on his public statement, what can we infer about Bond's legal strategy?
So, based on his brief but firm denial and his stated cooperation with the police, it seems his initial strategy is to assert his innocence and emphasize his willingness to assist the investigation.
Right.
There's no hint of trying to deflect blame or question the motives of any potential accuser in his public statement.
Given the looming NFL draft at the end of April, what's the likelihood of more information coming out from the police before then?
It's really hard to say.
Okay.
Police investigations can take a significant amount of time.
Sure.
And there's no guarantee that any substantial new details will be released before the draft.
Right.
The legal process often operates on a different timeline than the NFL's calendar.
So with this serious allegation, all that pre-draft momentum and the high projections are suddenly in jeopardy. How are NFL teams likely to view this situation as they make their decisions?
So the NFL places a huge emphasis on a prospect's off-field conduct in addition to their athletic abilities.
Of course.
A sexual assault allegation is, without a doubt, a major red flag for any NFL team.
Yeah.
They invest significant resources in background checks and due diligence.
Right.
And this kind of accusation will trigger intense scrutiny at every level of the organization.
You mentioned some of the teams that had shown significant interest in him.
Yeah.
How might this news affect those scheduled visits and their overall evaluation of him as a player?
It could have a profound impact. Teams like the Browns, Packers, Chiefs, Bills, and Falcons will almost certainly be reevaluating their level of interest. They might postpone or even cancel scheduled meetings. Their scouting departments will be working overtime to gather any information they can through their own channels. And will be closely monitoring any developments in the police investigation. The potential risk associated with drafting a player facing such a serious allegation is substantial. Both in terms of team image and potential legal complications down the line.
So what are some of the different ways this could play out when the draft actually happens? What are the possible scenarios for where he might get picked, or if he gets picked at all?
So we could see a few different scenarios unfold. Some teams might decide that the risk is simply too great, and they could completely remove him from their draft boards. Other teams might significantly lower his draft grade, causing him to potentially fall several rounds from those initial second or third round projections. However, there's also the possibility that some teams, if they believe in his innocence based on their own investigations or the limited information available, might see an opportunity to draft a player with high upside at a much lower pick than previously anticipated. It's a very fluid and unpredictable situation.
Isn't there a risk for teams that completely pass on him, though?
There is.
If he's eventually cleared? They might miss out on a potentially high-impact player.
Huge,
who fell.
Due
to the uncertainty.
Absolutely.
It's a tough decision for these organizations.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, beyond just where he gets drafted, this has much broader implications for his entire future in the NFL. And potentially beyond.
For sure.
Regardless of where or even if he's drafted.
You're
These allegations cast a dark shadow over his entire professional career.
Absolutely.
The outcome of the legal case will be the ultimate determining factor.
If
he is cleared before the draft or shortly thereafter, he may still have a chance to establish a successful NFL career. However, if the case remains unresolved, it'll be a persistent distraction that could impact his playing time endorsements and overall opportunities.
Of course.
And obviously, a guilty verdict would very likely be career-ending. The NFL has certainly dealt with its share of player controversies over the years.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Can you think of any past situations that might offer some context here?
Yeah.
Without getting into the specific details of those cases.
Yes. There have been instances where highly touted prospects and established players have faced serious legal allegations.
Right.
These situations highlight the complexities that teams face.
Of course.
When trying to balance a player's talent with potential off-field risks.
Yeah.
We've seen teams take different approaches, from drafting or continuing to employ players facing charges to releasing them outright.
Yeah.
Each case has its own unique circumstances and outcomes.
Sure.
But they underscore the significant impact that off-field issues can have on a player's career and a team's reputation.
It's interesting that Bond has chosen to continue with his pre-draft activities.
Right.
Despite facing such serious allegations.
Yeah.
What might that suggest about his mindset or his team's strategy?
It could suggest a strong conviction in his innocence and a determination not to let these allegations derail his lifelong aspiration.
Okay.
It might also be part of a carefully considered legal and public relations strategy.
Right.
Aimed at projecting an image of confidence and full cooperation.
Okay.
Alternatively, it could simply reflect the immense pressure these young athletes are under to capitalize on this very narrow window of opportunity to make it into the NFL.
Right.
It's a high-stakes gamble either way.
In today's world, news like this spreads instantly through social media.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of reaction have we seen online to Bond's arrest?
Predictably, the news became a major trending topic almost immediately.
Yeah.
Online discussions exploded across various platforms with fans, analysts, and casual observers all offering their opinions.
Wow.
There's been a clear divide in public sentiment, with some people expressing support for Bonds and emphasizing the importance of due process and the presumption of innocence.
Of course.
While others have been quick to condemn him based solely on the accusation. It highlights the challenge of navigating public opinion in such sensitive situations.
And how have the fan bases of his former teams, Alabama and Texas, and the teams that were reportedly interested in drafting him, reacted to this news?
So within the Alabama and Texas fan communities, there's a mix of reactions.
Yeah.
Some fans are expressing support for Bond, recalling his contributions to their teams, and hoping for a swift and favorable resolution. Others are understandably expressing disappointment and concern among fans of the teams that were showing pre-draft interest. There's likely a great deal of apprehension and uncertainty about how this might impact their team's draft plans.
I saw that Bond also issued a statement on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of response did that generate on social media?
So his public statement on Instagram definitely amplified the online discussion. The comments section became a real mix with supportive messages using his nickname 007 and expressing belief in his innocence, alongside critical comments and expressions of disappointment or anger.
Wow.
It's a stark illustration of the polarized nature of public opinion in these kinds of high-profile situations.
You mentioned Frisco, Texas, where he turned himself in.
Yeah.
Has there been any reaction within the local community there?
So, interestingly, this is reportedly the second recent high-profile crime story in Frisco.
Really?
Following a recent incident at a local track meet.
Wow.
This might be contributing to a sense of heightened concern within the Frisco community regarding public safety and crime in general.
So zooming out, this case also feeds into a much larger conversation.
It does.
About how the NFL and professional sports leagues in general handle allegations of misconduct against their players.
Definitely. The NFL has faced significant scrutiny in the past regarding its policies and responses to player misconduct, particularly in cases involving allegations of violence or sexual assault. This situation with Isaiah Bond will undoubtedly reignite those discussions and raise questions about the protocols and ethical considerations that teams and the league must navigate when dealing with such serious charges involving potential players.
So as we look ahead, what are the key aspects of this story that we should be paying attention to? What are the next developments that could shed more light on this situation?
Okay, so the ongoing investigation by the Frisco Police Department is the most critical factor. We need to watch for any official updates or the release of further details regarding the allegations or the progress of their investigation. However, as we've discussed, the timeline for this is uncertain and could extend beyond the NFL draft.
And of course, any new evidence that might surface, either publicly or through legal proceedings, could significantly alter the narrative.
Precisely, the emergence of any new information, whether it supports the allegations or bolsters Bond's denial, would have a major impact on both the legal proceedings and his prospects of playing in the NFL.
For Bond himself, he's in an incredibly difficult position.
Yes.
Trying to navigate these very serious allegations while still attempting to pursue his dream of playing professional football.
Right.
Through pre-draft evaluations and scrutiny from NFL teams.
Absolutely.
He's facing an immense amount of pressure.
Yeah.
As he tries to convince NFL teams of his character and potential.
Yeah.
While simultaneously dealing with a criminal investigation.
Right.
It's a delicate and high-stakes balancing act.
It is.
With potentially career-defining consequences at every turn.
Absolutely.
And the NFL draft itself looms large.
Yeah.
As a crucial deadline and a potential turning point in this whole situation.
Yeah.
What are some of the possible outcomes we might see on draft day?
So we could see a range of outcomes.
Okay.
He might still be drafted relatively early if some teams believe in his innocence or are willing to take on the risk. Conversely, he could slide down the draft board significantly as more teams become hesitant.
Yeah.
Or he could even go undrafted if teams are too concerned about the potential negative publicity and uncertainty surrounding the allegations.
Right.
The draft outcome will serve as a significant indicator of how NFL teams are currently weighing the seriousness of the allegations against his undeniable talent.
It's crucial to remember, even as we focus on Bond's situation, that there's also the perspective and experience of the accuser in this case.
Right.
Even though we don't have any specific details.
Of course.
Out of respect for their privacy and the ongoing investigation.
Absolutely.
That's a vital point.
Yeah.
While our discussion has centered on the information available regarding Isaiah Bond.
Right.
It's important to acknowledge that these situations have profound and lasting impacts.
They do.
On all parties involved.
Absolutely.
The accuser's experience and perspective are central to this case.
Of course.
And the seriousness of the allegations cannot be overstated.
It can.
So to bring our deep dive to a close for now, we're looking at a promising young athlete, Isaiah Bond.
Right.
Who stood on the precipice of achieving his lifelong dream.
Yeah.
Now facing serious sexual assault allegations just weeks before the NFL draft.
Wild.
It's a truly gripping and complex situation.
It is. It's a story filled with uncertainty, especially given the limited information that has been made public.
Right.
We have a firm denial from Bond, an ongoing police investigation, and the looming shadow of the NFL draft.
Right.
It's a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change.
It really makes you think about so many things.
It does.
How do NFL teams navigate these incredibly sensitive situations?
Right.
What are the ethical considerations they have to weigh?
For sure.
And what does a case like this tell us about the intense scrutiny that young athletes face?
Yeah.
And the speed at which public opinion can form, sometimes without all the facts.
These are all critical questions that don't have easy answers.
Yeah.
This case highlights the complex intersection of the high-stakes world of professional sports and the serious nature of the justice system.
Yeah.
It underscores the challenges of forming informed opinions.
Absolutely.
When key information is still unknown.
This is clearly a developing story.
It is.
And we encourage you to stay informed through credible news outlets as it unfolds.
Right.
It serves as a powerful and sobering reminder of the human element behind the sports headlines we often see.
Yeah, I agree.